I'm going to use the developer console of this OpenShift platform to show you how I deploy Java applications, and this sample application is built based on Quarkus framework. Quarkus is the latest technologies of the Java which provide you better resource utilizations, but at the same time give you higher throughput. And I'll be touching on the cloud native CICD as well, which is based on the Tekton. Now, pretending I am a new developer just joined your company, and I'm given a project to work on, and this is the URL of the source code of the project that I'm going to work on. I'm given the URL to access the developer console. I have my login ID and my password. Lastly, I am briefed that I need to use some pre-prepared library by the company, which is sitting in this Nexus repository, and this Nexus repository is deployed in the same OpenShift platform that I'm going to use to demo to you. Let's take a look on the source code I have. So for this source code is sitting in GitHub and is called Quarkus port name because this is a simple API programs that will return you a greeting message plus the value of the hostname. But because I'm deploying this into a container platforms, so it will return the port name value instead of a hostname value. That's why I call this application as Quarkus-port name. Now, let's go ahead and access the developer console of this OpenShift platform. I'll be using the ID and password provided to log in. So you can see the moment I log in, I landed in my own project, and then I have a few items here I can choose from how to deploy my source code or my applications. But in this demo, I'm going to choose this from Git options because my source code is actually sitting in the GitHub. So the first thing I need to feed in is the URL of my source code. So I'll copy from the GitHub and paste it over here. So the moment I paste it, you notice the system actually does some validations. It tries to access the this URL to see whether it's a valid one, and also at the same time it can access. So there are some advanced options here you can put in more, like for example, if you are pulling from other branch or any other tab, you can put the value here. If it's sitting in the subfolder, you can put the subfolder path value here. As for the secrets, this is used to put in your Git login ID and password. So this is for the scenario if you're using some private repository, is not accessible by anonymous, then you will need to feed in the user ID and the password. Apart from that, this system also detected the programming language in your source code. In this case, it detected that I'm using a Java programming language. So it's actually recommending the builder image, which is represented by star icon. So in this case, it's a Java. So apart from Java applications, if you are building your application using other programming language like .NET Core, Node.js, Ruby or Python, this platform will be able to detect and also do the compilations for you as well. So this is a truly polyglot platform for do your development of the applications. Next, I'll choose the builder image versions. In this case, because this is a Java application, so in a way, it's the OpenJDK version that I'm choosing here. Okay. Next, I will standardize the application name as well as the unique name to be given to all the components. Next, I need to choose the resource type to generate. Here we have three options: deployment, deployment config, and the last one is Knative service. Deployments is an object resource that default from the vanilla Kubernetes, while deployment config is something that only available in OpenShift platforms. These two give you different kind of features and capabilities, so you can choose which one to use based on your need. For example, deployment config give you the versioning of each deployments. In other words, if you make some changes into how you want to deploy your applications, then the system actually will automatically keep the previous versions, and then all the way until you remove the older versions, while deployment does not support this kind of feature. But for today, I'm going to choose this Knative service, which is something that is very interesting. According to the description here, this is a type of deployment that enable serverless scaling to 0 when I build. It means if I deploy using this resource type, when there's no traffic, no workload, the system actually will scale down my application deployment to 0. There's no consumption of the CPU or memory or even network bandwidth, right? This kind of like saving the cost, right? So especially when you are running this type of a platform on public cloud like AWS or Google, which they're charging you on demand basis. So while as a development as a developer, I do not actually utilize this platform during midnight. So the system will actually auto scale all my deployment into the 0 until the next day morning I come to work. Then when I make some API calls or create some workload, then the system will automatically bring back to life and continue serve my request. Next, I'm going to tick this add pipeline. So remember I was saying that I want to touch a little bit on the CICD. So these are the basic pipeline that is created by the systems. So it actually will do the cloning the source code from the repository. Then it will do the compilations, build images, and push to deployment. Because I'm using Knative service, so the last step is to take the image and push to my serverless deployment. Then I want to tick this to create a route so that I expose my application at a public URL and the external parties can access these applications. There are other advanced options down here, but I'm not going to go through them today. So I'll just go ahead and click on create. So now, remember I was using the pipelines, right, when I choose the deployment. So let's go ahead and take a look on the pipelines. You can see there's some movement here. Something is running from pipelines. At this point of time, I'm going to stop this first. The reason is because I want to make some changes to my pipeline. Remember, I was advised to use the Java libraries that is prepared, and I have to actually download this library from this URL. So this is where I'll be modifying my pipeline. Okay, at the build part, so I'll fit in this Maven mirror URL here and go ahead and do a save. Now I'm ready to start the pipeline again. So I just go ahead and kickstart another one. I'll leave everything to default and click start. So it's kickstarted the process of cloning the image, then it will build, I will compile and build the image and then do the deployment. So at the moment, what I'll do is, probably I go back to what we can do with this developer console. So if I go to add, so remember I was choosing these options to deploy. So there are some others options you can explore here, like let's say you are new, you want to do some exercise using this quick start, you can click on the options here. There are some samples applications for you to play around as well. You also can import a dev file from the Git to be built and deployed. You can even directly download a container image from an image repository or image registry. So potentially this could be something that your colleague already pre-built in the container image form. So you just get their access and download to deploy without compiling. So we also can do deployment using Docker file. We can choose database. We can choose from catalog, YAML, operator, Helm chart. There are a lot of options here. Okay. So if we go to the catalog, there are more items inside this catalog. Okay. In the categorize on the left here, I can choose CICD. So beside the one I was using, the pipeline that is based on the Tekton, which give you cloud native CICD. You also can use the more traditional CICD, which powered by Jenkins. So this platform also provide you some options of the databases. So you can provision MariaDB, MySQL, Progress from the template here. So the languages supported as similar to the very initial screen when I do the deployments. So we have the choice of .NET, Go, Java, JavaScript, PHP. This platform also provide you some middleware components. Let's say you want to use some API gateway solutions. You want to go with some integration solutions like AMQ, brokers. If you are keen to do event streaming, this is where you can explore something called AMQ streams that is provided by Red Hat as well. So there are also others items in the catalogs. So these are all provided by our Red Hat partners, right? So we actually have a very big ecosystems that provide you different kind of template and also solutions to help in terms of your development and also deployment. So from the menu on the left here, we have the monitor console. So as a developer, I have this dashboard, right, to monitor the things that I have deployed here. So I can do a search, build, pipelines, projects, so and so forth. Let's go back and take a look on our pipelines and see how is it going. So here you can see there's this pipeline runs. So basically pipeline runs is the execution of your pipeline. So every time you start a pipeline, then it will create a pipeline runs. So, right, so this serves as like every single execution that you have done before. Okay, so it should be ready any moment right now. So fetch is done. So let's look at the build. So actually fetch out the logs for you from here. Okay, so you can export expand the log so that you can see clearer. Okay, escape to, you can download the logs or the task log, or you can download these specific logs only. So you can see actually it's downloading from this URL that I was putting there. So in this pipeline runs, it further break down into the individual task runs. Okay, so pipeline is actually consisted of multiple tasks. So in these examples, I have 3 tasks here. Okay, so if we go to the task runs here, you should see there are 3 different task runs here as well. So we have done fetching the repository, we have done the build. Right now it's running to create the Knative service. Okay, let's go back to our topology. Yeah, it's ready. So you can see there's some animation here. So if we click on here, so it actually give me more details like this is the port that is running, this is the deployment, this is the route to access. So I can either click on the special icon here to open the URL to access my application, or actually I can choose from the route here. Okay, so I just go ahead and click this. Now you can see, remember I was saying this is a simple API programs that return a sample greeting message plus the port name. Okay, so it's a very long port name called Quarkus port name 111VW and then ending with 7x. Let's go back to the developer console to see is it the correct port name that we actually the API return. Yep, Quarkus port name 111VW and ending with 7x. Right, now I want to automate the CICD pipelines, right? I don't want to always come here to manually start this pipeline. I want to automate it. So I want to create something called a trigger here. So go ahead and choose this add trigger. So my source code is coming from the GitHub. So I'll be choosing the provider as coming from GitHub. And I want to capture a GitHub push event. That means the moment I make some changes to my code and when I push and commit into my Git repository, then it will actually trigger an event to this pipeline. Then it will automatically start my pipeline to fetch the latest source code, to build, to compile, and then do the deployment for me automatically. Right? So this process will be fully automated. Okay, so I'll leave the rest of the values as the default and go ahead and add it. Okay, now once we added the trigger, you can see there's a trigger template being created here and there's a URL here. So this is the URL that I need to copy and put into my GitHub repository. So this serves as the trigger point. So over the GitHub here, what we need to do is we're going to create a new webhook. So add webhook. I'm going to paste just now the URL. I need to choose my content type as application JSON. So I'm going to add the webhook. So it's been added. Let's click inside, choose this recent deliveries. So you can see there's a green color tick here, success. That means the moment I added this webhook, it actually again validate the URL back to my developer platform here. Then you kickstart the pipeline. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is to change the source code. Yeah, you can see when there's no workload, the system actually scaled up to 0. You don't see the blue color again. Okay, let's go ahead and break it up again. So let's refresh this one up. So now there's a workload sent to that platform, right? So what we can see here is the system actually bringing back to life again to serve the request. Okay. Yep. Good. Now we want to change the source code, right, to simulate the trigger to the pipeline. So this platform comes with something called CodeReady Workspace. This is a web-based IDE where you can access from any of the computer as long as you have the a browser, right? So I already pre-prepared this workspace. What I'll do is I'm going to open it up, and then it will immediately start this for me. Okay. So the benefit of using this kind of web-based IDE is that first thing, you have the governance of the access of the source code and also the environment you use for all your developers. You can standardize how the compilation like. You can standardize where each of your developers download the libraries from, like for example from the built-in nexus that we have pre-prepared, instead of having your developers to download their own libraries from the public. They may be using different version of the libraries. They may be using some libraries that have vulnerabilities, right? So with this kind of web-based IDE, it actually helps control in such manner and give you different kind of benefits. And the best thing is, as a developer, I can continue to do my work anywhere as long as I have a basic computer, no need to be very powerful, and then with a browser, and I'm able to access to this web-based IDE. Okay. So it's acting like just now the serverless applications. So the moment you are not using it, the system actually will scale it down to 0, and the first time you open it up, then it will start back again, right? So for those familiar with something called Visual Studio Code, okay, so you can see the interface actually is looking very similar, right? So this is a web-based version of that. That's why the interface, the menu actually looks very similar. So now what you're looking here is the source code of the application I have deployed is voila, from some get host name. So what I want to show you here is that I actually can start this application in development mode. Okay, so if I start this development mode, it will give me some live coding capabilities. That means it gives you the capabilities like when you code your HTML, right? The moment you make some changes in the HTML, you refresh, then the changes will be reflected into the page. Okay, same thing here. We can do this with Quarkus framework of Java applications. So now it's start and running. So you open it up in preview. Okay, probably I need to take a little bit longer to start. Let me try refresh. Yep. So this is similar to just now. We have a greeting message here, and then this is a port name. But because I'm running in this web-based IDE, the port name is different from just now the one, and it's much more longer. Now let's try to make some changes here. Hi IO foundations. Okay, So this spec ID automatically save the changes I have, and then if you do some live deployment, let's go ahead and do a refresh here. You can see the changes immediately reflected here, so I don't have to make start stop, that kind of thing. That save quite a lot of my time here, right? Now I have made these changes, so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and commit into my Git repository. Okay, so I'll make sure I'm in the right folder. I'm going to add all the changes I've done. I'm going to commit. Yeah, put out a simple message of hi IOF demo. Now I'm going to push origin master. It push origin master. Make sure you correct access path. Origin. So it asks for the access. So I need to provide my GitHub login. So it pushed it there. So remember we added the webhook, right? So the moment I push some codes into my GitHub, the webhook will be triggering an event and then sent to my platform to trigger my pipeline. So let's go back and check out my pipelines. Yep, the pipeline has been kickstarted, and then it will continue to do the CICD. Okay, then it will deploy the latest changes I have into this platform the moment I committed the source code. Okay, so that's all I want to show today.